It's an election year. Yay! Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. Joe Rorbit coming at you. And as you can tell by my opening, I'm not all that excited that 2024 is an election year. And from the people that I've been talking to, you're going to fall under one of two camps. Either you really like one of the candidates and you think the other one's a bozo, or you're concerned as to how a country that has close to 400 million citizens is supposedly one of the leading nations of the world, that this is the best that we can offer? Well, at the end of the day, because you want to see how current events affect your dollars. And the benefit we have in this election cycle is both of the leading candidates have served in office before. So we can simply look back at their terms and see, did they perform in a manner that made you money? So we're going to look at 4 leading economic indicators during the election year for both of these presidents and during their term. Now for Biden, because he hasn't finished his 4-year term, the numbers I'm going to share with you are the most recent I could gather. The 4 areas we're going to look at, number 1, we're going to look at market returns. How did the leading indices perform in the election year and the 4 years that the president served? Number 2, we're going to take a look at unemployment at the beginning and at the end of the president's term. Number 3, we're going to take a look at GDP, gross domestic product. How much did GDP grow over their terms? And number 4, are corporations making any money? Because GDP could be growing, but corporations may not be earning as much. How did corporate profit perform during the president's terms? So let's start with market returns. Let's look at Trump, who back in 2016 on the presidential ticket, we had Trump versus Clinton. How did the markets perform during 2016? We can see that the Dow Jones Industrial Average had a 13% return, the S&P 500 finished with 10, and the NASDAQ had a 6% return. But how about during the president's term? Now, I do want to point this out, that Trump's term ended during 2020, which, as you remember, that was the year of COVID, so these numbers could be a little skewed. The Dow Jones had a 55% return, the S&P 500 finished with a growth of 68%, and the NASDAQ had a whopping 165% growth during Donald Trump's presidential term. Biden ran against Trump. In 2020, we saw the Dow earn 7%, the S&P gained 16%, and the NASDAQ earned 48% that year. And during Biden's presidency, the Dow has earned 27%, the S&P is up 42% so far, and the NASDAQ has earned 47%. But how about unemployment? Are people who want to work able to secure jobs? When Trump entered office, unemployment was at 4.7%, and when he left office again during COVID, it was about 6.7%, but that was a massive decrease from the highs we saw during 2020. Biden entered office with a 6.4% unemployment and has just recently hit 4% in our most recent figures, which could bode well for those people who are looking for lower interest rates, because that means the economy is not growing at the pace that we thought it was, and maybe Powell will lower interest rates. How about GDP? Did gross domestic product grow during the president's terms? When Donald Trump entered office, we had $19.5 trillion in GDP. When he left, it had grown to $21.1 trillion, or a growth of around 8%. When Biden entered office, GDP had risen to $23 trillion, and the most recent GDP figures show we're about $26.6 trillion, or a gain of 14%. So we know that our GDP is growing. So that means corporations are earning a lot of money, but are they profiting from that? And the answer is a resounding yes. When Trump entered office, corporate profits were right around $2 trillion. At the end of his term, profits had increased to about $2.3 trillion. When Biden entered office, corporate profits were about $2.6 trillion, and now they're surpassing $3 trillion a year. And this is a figure I really want you to take a look at. Pre-COVID, corporate profits were $2 trillion. Now they're exceeding $3 trillion. That means we're seeing a 50% increase in corporate profits. So when someone tells you that those goods and services cost more because of inflation, I don't know if I would buy it, because it looks like these companies are making 50% more money than they were making a mere 4 years ago. So should you be worrying about either one of these individuals becoming president? When it comes to the markets, when it comes to GDP, when it comes to unemployment, probably not. Do you like them? Well, hey, that's up to you. This is not a channel where we're going to get into politics. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it matters who's president as much as the gentleman who's running the Fed seems to have a lot more control over your dollar than the president does. So maybe you should be looking at Jerome Powell a little bit closer than worrying about who's going to be sitting in the White House. So my take on this is, don't worry, the economy will do well over the next 4 years, unless Powell doesn't lower interest rates soon. If you like videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but it lets YouTube know that you like this content. Hit that bell if you want to be notified when my next video comes out. If you want to see more videos like this, check out one of my other videos. And as always, I'll see you next time.